some people are more prone to addiction than others, and so although it's been prescribed in the first place to treat a pain syndrome, sometimes if it's been overtreated or they've been given too much of the drug or they've enjoyed it too much, they tend to progress to a situation where they're abusing it and taking more than they need to. And what happens is they develop dependency. So if they stop taking it, they start feeling withdrawal. Also what happens is tolerance. When to achieve the same effect of whether it's pain control or if they want to just use it to get high, they need more and more of the drug to achieve that effect. And this helps perpetuate the depths of this addiction. So what maybe starting off as a pain syndrome can soon be followed by dependency and tolerance to the drug of choice. Other people, now we're going to let's say the younger generation, boredom, recreation, rebelliousness, all of the above, peer pressures from other kids. Experimentation with drugs is a natural, unfortunate fact of life, and not all teens are going to be experimenting and abusing, but certainly a certain percentage of them will. And when their friends are using, then they are more prone and more likely to use as well as a form of experimentation. It can also be, as I said, a form of rebelliousness. The hopeful thing to do in this situation, though, is to help educate them as far as responsible drug use. I mean, avoiding drugs altogether is a great idea, but that has not worked. Clearly from the 1980s with the Nancy Reagan Just Say No campaign is not enough. What needs to happen is to better educate our youth so that they make informed decisions so they're not getting stuck in the realms of addiction. But plenty will go on, and what starts off as a recreational thing can grow quickly, especially with the opioids, especially with fentanyl, because it's so potent, so powerful, that they soon become hooked, because if they stop taking it, they start feeling withdrawal syndrome, and the only way to make it go away is to take more of the drug. And this just perpetuates it. Add to this that they've developed a tolerance and they need more and more of the drug to achieve the same effect. Now they're using more and more of the drug, and this gets them deeper into the addiction, and even more severe will the withdrawal syndrome be. The more severe it is, the less likely they will be to actually stopping and ceasing the drug intake. So it's a very dangerous perpetual cycle. Other people progress who are abusing opioids now. This is down the addiction spectrum. Heroin users. How does somebody become a heroin user? Well, they don't just suddenly start injecting. It starts with taking an opioid from whatever reason, whether it's prescribed or not, but they end up developing tolerance. They want to get a stronger high, and they learn techniques from other people or online. And this can include instead of snorting, taking the pills by mouth, they can snort them, crush them up, they can melt them down and start injecting them. This is a stepwise approach. Most people don't just jump into IV drug use. It's because they're going through withdrawal, they become desperate, they just want to get high and have a bigger bang from the drug. And unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword, and the more potent it is, the more rapid acting it is, whether it's by snorting it or by injecting it, well, that just deepens the addiction, worsens the tolerance, and the dependency makes the withdrawal state even stronger. And so this is a sad scenario. There's a lot of fentanyl addicts out there as well. A lot of heroin addicts have been converted over to fentanyl now, because the drug supply of heroin is no longer pure, it contains fentanyl in it, and this just speeds up the depth of the addiction, and they become a slave to the drug now. They are using opioids because they will get sick if they stop, and it's a very horrible situation to be in. This explains why people go to such extreme lengths, such desperation. They're going through withdrawal and they'll do anything to stop feeling sick. This is no longer a moral decision. This is a sick person. It's important to appreciate where they are coming from. This explains why people will burn their bridges with their family and loved ones. They will borrow money and not pay back. They will sleep on people's couches and couch surf for a while until they burn those bridges. They will lie and manipulate. They're doing this not because of moral or character problems, it's because they are feeding their drug addiction, and it's very, very hard to get off of it. Other things include prostitution. And in other cases, such as myself, a doctor who started prescribing inappropriately to feed my own habit. People will go to desperate lengths because they are in desperate times. They are feeling very sick from withdrawal and just want to make it go away. That explains, I hope, why people abuse opioids. The simple answer in the end is because opioids are very powerful, they are very strong, and it makes it they become hooked very gradually. They may not even realize it, but it's the strength of the drug itself and the rapid onset as well that can lead to a worsening addiction. So to summarize, it's a big one. So to summarize why people are abusing or misusing opioids, it stems from people who have been on legitimate prescriptions for pain, who are simply dependent on it and they just can't get off, to people who are dependent from a prescription but abuse it because they want to achieve a higher level of pain control. They need to, let me clarify that. In order to, they develop tolerance and they need to take more and more of the medication to achieve the pain control threshold. And so in this situation, they are becoming manipulative to themselves. They are overdoing it with their medications, and this is a high-risk situation. The other end of the spectrum are younger people who are experimenting and taking drugs for the first time and can get hooked very quickly. There could be a lot of peer pressure on them from their friends, lots of reasons, rebelliousness, defiance, you name it, that they are trying out these medications. And it's just a normal part of teenage years as well as to experiment. The unfortunate thing is opioids are like playing with fire. They're very strong, very rapid onset, rapid acting, and very potent, and a person can become hooked before they even realize it. And then finally, the other spectrum here, people who are crushing up and abusing opioids, whether they want to snort it or melt it down and inject it. This is the worst case scenario at the end of the spectrum here, where a person becomes a desperate situation that even if they had every reason to want to quit and every effort to do so, it becomes very difficult because the addiction is so strong and the withdrawal is so compelling. They will go to any length to avoid feeling sick from the withdrawal. Should I say no if my doctor wants to prescribe me opioids? No, I think it's wise, first of all, to open up communication with your doctor. First of all, they should be aware if there's any history of any mental illnesses previously or any history of substance misuse. That is more important. They need to know what's going on. For most people who are being prescribed opioids, it's because of a short-term pain management way of treatment. And for pain that's going to last up to about a week or so, there's nothing wrong with opioids. Your physician generally knows what they're doing. They wouldn't be prescribing it unless there was a good reason. And a 1-week prescription is plenty. Anything beyond that could put a person at a higher risk for developing dependence. So in this situation, as long as they're taking it as prescribed, they're not taking it more frequently or taking larger doses than prescribed, and if they're taking it for shorter than a week, there's nothing wrong with taking an opioid prescription by your family doctor. But like I said in the beginning though, they should be aware if there's a history of substance misuse or any mental illnesses, because this can put a person at a higher risk of developing dependency and complications of the opioid use. I want to urge to people that opioids are very effective if used properly and for a very short duration, i.e. less than a week, and to be used sparingly. We also need to accept the fact that we need to live with pain. Pain is not going to be medicated away. As a society, we've become very sensitive to pain and requiring pain treatments. And sometimes it's best to realize the tough love approach and to say, we need to learn how to suck it up and to deal with a certain amount of pain and to accept that. And that can enable people, because at least now their expectations are set lower. And so they can just be given a dose of reality right from the beginning. And there's many alternatives to treating pain aside from opioids. There's non-opioid analgesics like Tylenol and ibuprofen. There's cognitive therapy, being aware of my pain and being able to learn techniques of breathing, for example, to relieve it. Stretching exercises, physiotherapy or physical therapy in the United States, acupuncture, chiropractics. There's many ways to treat pain. So it's important to realize that opioids are very helpful for a select subset of patients with acute pain, not for chronic pain, for pain less than a week, is what I'm trying to say here, and to realize that there's going to be pain there, we can never medicate it fully away, and that there's alternative treatments to it. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions to this, please leave it in the comments box below.